Look, my top rated book on confidence is called The Super You. I'm sending it to you, physical book, free. Go to the link down there. You got it.
DreAllDay.com.
Congratulations on tuning into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you become a go-getter with a personal initiative to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, you end up with the mindset, the method, the podcast known as work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Welcome to the show. Today's topic is how to ignore the spectators. How do you ignore the audience? How do you ignore the peanut gallery? And I'll explain what the peanut gallery means in the future. How do you ignore these spectators, people watching? Why? First of all, why do you even need to ignore the spectators? Well, one thing I know is in the sports world, our live games often alter the quote-unquote lab tests of practice. Any of you athletes ever experienced that? Any of you trainers or coaches ever dealt with a player who experienced that? Meaning they could perform really well in practice or in training, or they feel very comfortable, or you felt very comfortable in training or in practice, or when you're playing with your friends or in some type of familiar surrounding. But as soon as you get into that live game with all these spectators, all these people watching, maybe people whom you don't know, you had spectators before, but now spectators that you don't know, people who aren't so sure of you, people who are judging you, or at least you believe that they're judging you, all of a sudden the performance is not so easy. It's not so seamless. It's not so smooth. You don't feel so comfortable. You don't feel so relaxed. You don't feel so confident. How is all those things happening? The spectators have something to do with it. Now, there may be other aspects that are contributing to that, other elements that contribute to it, but I believe the spectators have a lot to do with it. In the life that we're living now, the world that we're in now, everybody can be spectated on. I don't even know if that's a word, but you understand what I'm saying. Everybody can be observed. Everybody can be watched. Everybody can be judged, and everyone can be opined on. Everyone can share an opinion about you as long as anything you do is put out there to the public. And it may not really be about you personally. It's really about them, but they're just using you. But that affects people. I mean, all of us, we're social creatures. We're affected by how other people feel about us, at least to some point, at least at some level. Have you ever played well in practice but sucked in the game? Maybe it's the other team that was part of the issue, but also in our minds, it's the fact that we know we're being watched. When we know we're being watched, our performance changes a little bit. Some people's performance goes up. Some people's performance goes down. Some people go a little to the left, a little bit to the right. But having ourselves being watched changes us. At least the first few times, and maybe the first time we go through it. Maybe you get to the point that you get so used to it that it doesn't bother you anymore. But often early on, that the reality of being watched alters the lab test when we're not being watched. Now, that can be nerve-wracking. I mean, let's be honest. Let's be honest, it can be nerve-wracking knowing that you got a whole bunch of people paying attention to you. Now, metaphorically, even if you're not working somewhere, you're not doing anything where people come to actually watch you do your job, human beings are judgmental. I think we can all agree with that, right? All of us are judgmental, including myself, including you. We are all judgmental individuals. So knowing this, we know that other people are judging us unconsciously, even if it's not consciously we're thinking about it. And that can get in the way mentally for us doing what we need to do. So today is all about how to put all of that stuff aside, focus on doing our job and do it to the best of our ability, no matter how many people are paying attention to us or how many people we think are paying attention to us. And again, point number one, today's topic again is how to ignore the spectators and just get our jobs done the way those jobs need to be done. Number one, know that the spectators are part of the game. People watching, people paying attention, people sharing their opinions, people having something to say, people just wanting to see what you're going to do next. That's all part of the game. When you have game, when you have skill, when you're putting yourself out there, people are going to come watch you. People are going to come pay attention to you. People are going to talk about you. People are going to follow you. People are going to ask you questions. People may have some negative things to say. This is part of the game that you're getting into. This is part of the game of having game. You understand? When you got game, people are going to watch you. Why? Because not everybody has game. When you put yourself out there, people are going to watch you. Why? Because not everybody wants to put themselves out there. Therefore, they'll just watch you. They'll live vicariously through you because they don't want to do it. So they'll just watch you do it. All right. When you have game and you're putting yourself out, you will draw attention whether you want to or not. Now, if you don't want that attention, listen, just don't have game. Stop working on your game and never put yourself out there, and you could be one of the spectators yourself. All right. Now, today's episode is about ignoring people like you. All right. So I don't think you want to get into that category. Thus, you got to condition yourself. Knowing that being watched is part of the game, condition yourself to perform under scrutiny. Simple as this. Condition yourself to perform knowing you're being watched, judged. People have opinions. Some people are going to be negative. Knowing that you're being scrutinized, condition yourself to perform anyway. When you're speaking, whenever I'm talking to someone, not now, but early on when I was first doing speaking engagements, people would sometimes ask me, well, Dre, what is the largest size audience you have spoken in front of to this point? And the reason they would ask that question is because they wanted to gauge if I was used to being watched, judged, being spectated, if that's a word, by the size of crowd that they have. Because there's a big difference between speaking in front of a room of 10 people and 110,000. Maybe 10 to 100 is not that big of a difference, but 10,000, that's a big difference of speaking to a room of 100. Are you used to that? Are you conditioned for that? Are you ready for that level of scrutiny, that level of maybe pressure, that level of attention? It's a lot different when you're in a 10,000 seat arena and it's full than in a room with 25 people in it. So what's the solution to this? There's a solution to getting used to being under scrutiny, because I'm telling you to get used to it, but how do you do it? Two things you got to do. First thing is you got to get game reps. We're still on to point number one here. You got to get game reps. What's a game rep? Athletes, coaches, trainers, you know what a game rep is, right? That means getting in the game and actually performing. You got to get repetition, experience, being in a live game, doing your thing, whatever your thing happens to be. If that means crashing and burning, failing, getting your ass kicked, that's all part of your game reps. You got to get those game reps. There is no shortcut for a live experience doing the thing that you do. There is no shortcut for that. There's no book for it. There's no podcast episode for it. There is no online course for it. There's no Instagram post about it. If there was, I would have already made it. Okay. So there is no shortcut for any of this stuff. You got to get out there and get live game reps and whatever you do. It is not just about sports. You got to get game reps and doing your thing, whatever it is. And here's point B. Other thing you need to get used to the scrutiny. Mentally, you got to know the venue. Be ready for what's ahead. What did we talk about yesterday? Seeing the landscape, taking a look at what's going on, knowing where the opportunity is, know the venue that you're getting into. When I'm going to speak somewhere in a literal sense, I always like to get to the room early, or maybe even the day before, so I can see where am I going to be speaking at? Where on the stage am I going to be standing? Where's the audience going to be? Where the camera's going to be at? How's the lighting going to be? So I can start mentally preparing myself for the venue that I'm going to be performing in. As an athlete, we want to get to the gym early, or the field, or the track, or the pool early. Why? So you can get a feel for the venue. All right, this is where I'm going to shoot from. This is what the ball is going to be like. This is where the court is. This is where the fan's going to be. You want to get mentally prepared for the environment that you're going to be in ahead of time. These are two things that you can do to get yourself ready to be prepared for that scrutiny. Point number 2. Today's topic is how to ignore the spectators in life. Know that the spectators, by definition, are there to see you. You are not there to see them. This is a challenge that happens. Well, I used to say this is a challenge that happens with a lot of young athletes. This challenge is happening to adults nowadays because everybody can be watched. Like I talked about at the top of this episode, a lot of people these days tailor their actions and tailor their words based on the fact that they know they're being watched. They know they're being judged. They know that there's scrutiny coming. They know that they could be negatively judged if they happen to say or do something that someone else disagrees with, or someone else wants to make light of, or whatever the situation happens to be. Understand that the spectators, the people talking about you, watching you, judging you, they are doing what they're doing because they want to watch you. They want to observe you. They want to see what you're doing. You are not there for them. They are there for you. Say that one more time. You are not there for the spectators. Spectators are there for you. The definition of being a spectator is you're watching. You're watching what's going on. You're watching the game. You're on the sideline watching the game. The players, the people doing stuff, you're playing in the game. Your job is to perform in the game. What the spectators think, what they see, how they feel, what noise they make, none of that has anything to do with you doing your job. When you're a professional at what you do, or you plan on becoming a professional, your only job is to do what you need to do. It's to perform your role, whatever that is. And I'm going to get to that in a moment. Understand that, and this is point number 2, people are there to see you. You are not there to see them. Prepare yourself as someone who other people invest time, energy, attention, money, and resources into watching. Let me say that one more time. Make sure you caught it. Mentally prepare yourself when you're training, when you're getting ready, when you're thinking about what you're going to be doing. Prepare yourself as if you are a person whom other people will invest their resources in watching. See, because if you play ball like you're a person who just plays for fun and you're in your driveway and nobody's watching and nobody gives a damn, that's a completely different preparation than the person who says, you know what? People are investing their money. They're buying $20 tickets and driving the whole family 2 hours to come watch me play. You got to prepare yourself as a person who people pay money to watch you. People pay their energy. They pay their attention. They pay their time to watch you do your thing. People invest their resources in watching you. Prepare yourself as if you're that type of person, because now your work is affecting other people. It's not just about you. It's about other people. We talked about that a few episodes ago. If you have not listened to every episode of this podcast, I suggest you go back and listen to as many as in your feed right now. Then go to dreallday.com/podcast and start catching up. You got a lot to catch up on. People who invest time in you, people who invest energy in you, prepare yourself like you're that type of person. You expect them to do it. And that's why you're there. That's why you are in the position you're in. That's why they're in the position that they're in. Point number 3, today's topic is how to ignore the spectators of life. Have your game in order. This is a simple one, right? Have your game in order. Do you work on your game consistently? Do you have a plan for working on your game and to developing yourself into the type of person who other people would invest in watching, let alone paying you or having you on their team or having you as part of their organization or having you as part of their company? Have your game in order. When you know what you're doing, ladies and gentlemen, you know what you're doing and you know you're good at it. Maybe you're excited to be seen. All right, it's not a burden to have people watching you. See, when I say ignore the spectators, I'm not saying that the spectators are a bad thing. All right, some people get excited when there's a crowd. When I would play ball at a park or in a rec league in the summertime and the crowd was just lined with people, they're up against the sideline. Those are my favorite games, because I knew I was being watched by a whole bunch of people. And the reason why I was excited is not because I just wanted the attention, it's because I knew I was good at what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. I knew I was good at it. So this just meant more people are going to know that I'm good. More people are going to know that I got game. Now, if I was garbage and I was nervous and I was afraid, I would play even worse when there's a bunch of people watching, because now more people are going to know that I'm garbage. More people are going to know that I'm afraid. More people are going to know that I have no idea what I'm doing. So when your game is in order, you know what you're doing. The spectators may excite you. It may excite you when you know you're being watched. That still means, though, you got to train. You got to train even when nobody's watching, as if you're preparing for when everybody is watching. What you do in the light, what you do in the dark, rather, shall come to the light. However, I got to give you a disclaimer to point number 3 that takes us right into point number 4. You got to know your job. You got to know your role, because maybe what you're doing, whatever role it is you're doing, is not all about showing off for the crowd. Maybe doing your job will not produce a lot of fanfare. Maybe you personally may not get a lot of attention, but somebody else on your team, somebody else in your company, someone else in your organization is going to get a lot of credit, a lot of attention, a lot of admiration from the spectators, and you're going to get very little. Even though there's a lot of spectators, nobody's going to notice you. Are you okay with just playing your role? I mean, you look at a singing group like, let's say, Destiny's Child, right? There's one leading role, right? We got Beyonce as the leading role. Then other people are not going to get as much shine as her. No matter how good they are, they're not going to get that kind of shine. But are they okay with playing their role on the team? In sports, this is especially true, because in sports, sometimes you get egos, right? There are egos in everything, but in sports, especially because you're being watched and people can get a lot of attention for what they do in sports. And not everybody's going to get the same amount of attention, because some people got to play a role. Some people got to be the star. Some guy gets the ball a lot. Somebody doesn't get the ball at all. So are you willing to play your role, even if that means you won't get as much attention as maybe you think you should be getting? As much burn, as much shine, as much publicity, maybe as much money or whatever it is you value that somebody else is getting, at least while you're on that team. Maybe you can plot and scheme and strategize to get on a different team, but you can get a different level of payback from the spectators. But can you play your role where you are right now? Are you willing to play your role where you are right now? Are you willing to do your job? Whatever that job happens to be, even if it's a job that you don't really want to do. If it's your job right now and you're in that group, you're in that organization, you're on that team, do your job, which may not get you a whole lot of attention. Are you all right with that? Are you disciplined enough to deal with that? Question you got to ask yourself. Rhetorical. Let's recap today's topic, which is how to ignore the spectators in life. And there will be a lot of them. The better you are, the more of them there will be. Number 1, know the spectators are part of the game. Thus, you must condition yourself to perform when under scrutiny. How do you do that? Number 1, you got to get game reps. There is no shortcut to getting repetition and experience doing your thing. And number 2, mentally know the venue, know the environment that you're stepping into, and be ready to perform in that environment. Number 2, know that they're there, the spectators are there to watch you do your thing. You are not there to watch them do their thing or listen to them or respond to them or play to them or react to everything that they say. They are watching you. You are not watching them. Get that frame of mind. Ingrain that into your mind, and you won't be so worried about the spectators. You will not be controlled by the opinions of the peanut gallery. Number 3, have your game in order. If your game is in order, you'll probably be excited when you're being watched. You'll be excited when you know you're being scrutinized because you know you're going to show them something good. When you know what you're doing and you know you're good, you're excited to be seen. However, disclaimer to point number 3 is point number 4. You got to know your role, know your job, know what you're there to do. Often what you're there to do is not to just please the crowd. Often what you're there to do is perform a certain task. And if it happens to please the crowd, that's great. If it happens to make you look good, that's great. If you happen to be able to show off in the process of doing your job, that's great. But do not sacrifice doing your job in order to please the crowd, in order to show off for the audience, in order to impress the peanut gallery. A lot of people find themselves doing that. Then they end up hurting their performance, hurting their outcomes, hurting their results, hurting their team, and then you usually end up out of a job. You end up out of an opportunity, and then those same spectators that you were playing to impress are now making jokes about you. Now they're laughing at you. Now they completely forgot about you. Why? Because you ain't outperforming, because you ain't got no team to be on. You don't have anything to produce. You don't have anything to show for what you've been doing because you played to the crowd. Do not play to the crowd. Play to the performance. That's a good one right there. Say that one more time. Do not play to the crowd. Play to the performance. Meaning everything you're doing is not to please the crowd, but it's to please the outcome that you showed up to get. Now, you got to know what your outcome is in order for that to work. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.